and I think we can get going. Okay, oh, just a reminder, everyone, please make sure that you've got your chat settings set to everyone so that we can all see your comments. Okay, Lily, you just sent that message just to me. Okay, so change your chat setting and everyone can see. Okay, so Xin Chào, everyone, and welcome to this National Geographic Learning Vietnam webinar. Our title today is Speak Clearly, Listen Carefully, Productive and Receptive Pronunciation. Before we begin, I'd like to play you this short welcome message from one of our authors, Chia Swan Chong. I'm just wondering, do any of you know Chia? In the chat box, can you type in? I don't know if any of you recognize her. Just curious to know. So she's, yeah, she's one of the authors for some of the materials we're looking at today. Okay, that's fine. If you don't know, I'm just curious to know, okay, if people know her. Okay, so let's play. Okay, we're going to listen to this short introductory video, okay?
Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to this special event for English teachers and educators in Vietnam. My name is Chia Swan Chong, and I'm a teacher trainer, communication skills trainer, and author of National Geographic Learning's new 7-level course for young adults and adult English learners, Voices. Voices focuses on helping students use English effectively as a tool for global communication. Aside from the usual grammar and vocabulary syllabus, Voices also helps students with their pronunciation, their communication skills, intercultural skills, and interpersonal skills, so that they can participate in conversations with people from all around the world and communicate successfully across cultures. I hope you enjoy exploring voices and bringing the real world into your classrooms.
Okay, great. So that was Chia, and we'll hear a little bit more about Chia later on. Okay, so let me introduce myself. My name is Will Lachette, and I am an academic consultant and teacher trainer for National Geographic Learning. I've traveled to Vietnam lots of times to conduct teacher training sessions, and I also taught a lot of Vietnamese students while I was working as an English teacher. So I'm originally from the UK, but I live in Singapore, and I have been working in English language teaching in Asia since 2001. So today I'm going to be showing you content from our new young adult or adult program called Voices, which will be giving you examples of pronunciation activities. And this is the program that Chia just introduced in the video. And we're going to be looking at this level here, the elementary level, which is an A1 level on the CEFR. So let's begin. So pronunciation is the practical application of the language system phonology, which is a linguistical term. And we can basically divide the study of pronunciation into two areas, and they match the language skills of speaking and listening. So to be good at speaking English, and by good, I mean easily understood by most people, we need to have very good productive pronunciation. And it means that we need to be able to produce or say sounds, words, phrases, and sentences in a way that people can understand, which means to be intelligible. So it includes things like individual vowel and consonant sounds, consonant clusters or blends, but also things like pausing, intonation, word and sentence stress, and other aspects. So I have a question for you. And we're going to do this as a poll. So let me get my first poll question up here. And this is my question. You should see the poll on the screen now. So in your opinion, in English course books or textbooks, do you think they usually contain too much productive pronunciation practice? Do you think they have exactly the right amount, or do you think there's not enough productive pronunciation in the materials that you generally use? So I've used a lot of different books in my time as a teacher, and I'm just curious to see what you think. So let's see if we can get, thank you. I can see a lot of you are already voting. I'll give you a few more seconds. And then I'm going to share the results. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll there, okay, and share the results. So we can see that, okay, so only very few of you, 6% think there's too much, about a quarter of you, 25% think it's the right amount, and almost 70% of you, 7 out of 10, think there's not enough productive pronunciation. Okay, great, that's very interesting. So basically, this is where productive pronunciation, this is where most teachers and most books or programs, is where most of them focus their attention on producing the sounds. And usually this is done by copying a model, which is either American or British English. But there's another half of pronunciation, which is the receptive pronunciation. And this means to understand what other people say to us. And to do this, we need to have good receptive pronunciation. So it's really a listening skill. So in your opinion, let's do the same with similar question. Okay, in your opinion, do English course books have the right amount? Okay, do they have too much, or do they have not enough for receptive pronunciation? So I put the same question up on the screen there. So let's see what your opinion is this time. Okay, so I'll just give you a few more seconds. Okay, and I'm going to end the poll there, okay, and share the results. So we've got different here. So roughly the same amounts. We've got 9% here think there's too much. So we can see very few people here actually think that we're giving our students too much pronunciation. About half of you are saying that you think it's the right amount of receptive, and about 42% think there's not enough. So I can see from here that most of you actually think that at the moment, course books should be focusing more on productive and not so much on receptive, which is quite surprising to me, because I think in my experience, it's the books that I've used, most of them really focus entirely on productive, and there's very little receptive pronunciation actually taught. So I'm quite surprised some of the results there. So yeah, we're going to have a look. We're going to have a look at some different ways we can do productive and receptive pronunciation. And as I said, in my experience, books often don't teach receptive pronunciation very well. If they do it, they usually follow the same kind of model as with productive, so which means that they're usually using either British or American speakers, okay, as examples for our students to listen to and try and understand, right, using that native speaker model. Okay, so next I want to watch a short clip by another of our Voices author, who's a pronunciation expert, Marek Kikciovac, and he's going to explain why aiming for intelligibility is so important when we are teaching pronunciation. So I'm just going to stop sharing just for a minute, and we're going to do a new share. And we're going to go over to a website here, and we're going to watch a few seconds of this video.
The first principle that I want to address is intelligibility. In other words, when teaching pronunciation in voices, we focus on pronunciation that is comprehensible, clear, and easy to understand to a broad range of listeners. How do we know what makes up such pronunciation? There is plenty of research that shows which pronunciation features are important for intelligibility in international contexts, which pronunciation features aren't important, and which pronunciation features can actually make someone harder to understand. And research will be our second principle that we'll get to in a minute. You might say, surely pronunciation activities in all course books are focused on helping students to be easy to understand. Interestingly, though, this is not the case. For example, in 2021, I reviewed the pronunciation content of several major coursebook series. It turned out that in some teaching resources, 48% of all pronunciation slots were occupied by teaching students features of connected speech. However, research clearly shows that connected speech is likely to make you less intelligible, not more intelligible. So while teaching connected speech might be important to help students better understand fast speech, it's certainly not going to help them speak more clearly. And that's the distinction between receptive pronunciation and productive pronunciation. Receptive pronunciation is about helping students understand how people speak. Productive pronunciation, on the other hand, means helping students speak clearly. We also considered this when designing Voices syllabus.
Okay, and I'm going to stop that there. And just while I'm doing my new screen share, just interested to hear your opinion on that. So do any of you have any comments, okay, about what you heard there, about what Marek was saying about pronunciation? So I'm going to summarize in a minute, but just I'm interested to see what you think about what you just heard from Marek. Okay, I'm getting my screen set up. So I think, you know, from what I got from what Marek was saying is that he's basically saying that, you know, not all pronunciation activities are equally valid. So in my opinion, as we said earlier, that there's not enough pronunciation in textbooks in general. Most of us agreed on that, okay, 70%. As Hong Nguyen says here, it's sad that textbooks do not teach pronunciation enough. Someone says, Bo Kwang says, I agree. Yeah, but it's not just the amount. He's also saying that actually the pronunciation that is taught is often really not that useful. The example he gives is connected speech, okay, which actually makes our students more difficult to understand. So yeah, this is, we don't have enough pronunciation, and also often we're focusing on the wrong parts of pronunciation. So this is kind of what we're going to be looking at today. Okay, we need to focus on things that make us easier to be understood, okay, and also make it easier for other people to understand us, productive and receptive. We need to think of these two halves together, okay? It's not just one or the other, it's both, and they're both equally important. Okay, so yeah, we need to focus on areas that we know are important for global intelligibility, right? So people from all over the world can understand us. These are the 3 points he mentions. Okay, so let's think about your students, okay? So for your students in Vietnam, for them to be successful in a world which is becoming more and more interconnected, which nationalities might young Vietnamese people have to interact with in their future jobs? So maybe you could drop some into the chat box for me. What do you think, in your opinion? So maybe for their parents or grandparents, they probably mostly had to interact with other Vietnamese people. But how about young people these days? What about in their future? Okay, do you think they might have to interact with people from other countries? What do you think? So we've got here Indian, Chinese, Japanese, US, Australian, Canadian, says Chris. All right, great. That's interesting. So Lynn has put in three Asian countries, so your neighbors, and Chris has put in 3 English-speaking countries. Tui Pam says China, Singapore, Japan, Korea. Okay, mostly Asian countries. Right, so I mean, it could be anywhere, depends on the industry, but it could be literally from anywhere in the globe. It's probably likely to be from somewhere within Asia because they're nearby. There's probably more business being done with the big Asian countries in the region. But, you know, I think what we've illustrated here is that Vietnamese people in the future, okay, in their jobs, they will be dealing with people, they'll be speaking English to people from many countries, okay, not only native speakers, not only Americans and British people, right? So who speaks English, right? So around the world, there are about 2 billion English speakers globally, but we know that about 80% of these speakers are actually non-native speakers, which means that they have learnt English as a second or third language. So this means that the majority of English speakers are second, third, even fourth language learners. And even more important is the question, who is talking to who in English? And we also know that the vast majority of English conversations actually happen between non-native speakers without any native speaker being there at all. Okay, this information I've taken from a British Council paper called The English Effect. So if we know this, okay, if we know that most conversations are happening between non-native speakers, question is why do we so often only use native speakers from the US or from the UK as models for speaking or as models for pronunciation? So yeah, of course, we know that they can speak English well, but there's actually plenty of evidence that so-called native speakers are actually not very good models, okay, for people learning the language. So this is an article that I've taken from the BBC, and it's called "Native English Speakers Are the World's Worst Communicators." Yeah, so if you're interested, you could Google that and have a look. I think it's a very interesting article. And it labels native speakers as the world's worst communicators because they tend to speak very, very quickly. They tend to drop sounds out. They tend to blend words together, connect speech. They tend to use jokes and slang. So it makes them very hard to understand for other people. Whereas non-native speakers, people who have learned English as a second language or a third language, they speak very purposefully, very carefully, and they're much easier to understand. So here is a quote from that BBC article, which I've just shortened here, but I'll read you the full quote. It says, "Often you have a boardroom full of people, all from different countries around the world, and they're all communicating in English and they all understand each other. And then suddenly the American or the Brit walks into the room and nobody can understand them." So this is a quote from that BBC article. Again, it's Chia Swan Chong, who you met earlier. And yeah, she's talking about here that native speakers are not always great models for language learners because we speak English differently. So what we can learn from this is that we need to introduce our students to a wide range of models, a wide range of accents, perhaps from Japan, okay, from China, from any country where our students are going to learn to understand this broad range of people. I'm going to switch over now to our classroom presentation tool, which is a digital teaching resource. You can use it online or offline, has all of the media that you need, multimedia, has all of the content, interactive activities, etc. Okay, so I'm just going to take a few seconds to change my share again. And we will go over to the classroom presentation tool. Here it is. Okay, so what you should be able to see now, okay, is the digital version, and we're going to have a look at Unit 7, and we're going to go into Lesson 7A. Okay, and this is a lesson based around things that we can't live without and based around our mobile phones. We're obviously going to focus on the pronunciation activities in here. Okay, so we're going to start with a productive pronunciation point, which is saying several consonants together, or we can call this consonant clusters. So a cluster can be 2, 3, or even 4 consonants that we say together. And this can be very difficult for many language learners, including Vietnamese people, to produce. I'm just wondering if you can tell me in the chat box, why is that? So why do maybe Vietnamese people find these consonant clusters difficult to say? So when we have several consonants together, can anyone give me an idea? Why do we find that difficult to pronounce? So if we've got any ideas. Right, Lok Trong, very nice. Okay, so Lok Trong, can you change your settings to everyone, Lok Trong, so everyone can see that? But Lok Trong said the Vietnamese language doesn't have a wide range of consonant clusters. Right, Thuy Pham said the same thing. We don't have that in Vietnamese. Clusters are not present in the mother tongue, right? So exactly. So we're asking our students something to do which is unnatural for them. They don't have practice in it, right? Another thing is it is difficult because you're making your mouth change position into several different things. We look at the example here. We've got sp, sp. So that's 3 different mouth shapes which we're trying to do very quickly together. So it's something that we have to practice and something that we need to make our students aware of, okay, and help them to be able to do this. It is very difficult. So let's read the box here. It says, when there are 2 or more consonant sounds together, it can be difficult to make all the sounds. So the tip here is try making the sounds by adding 1 consonant sound at a time. Okay, so here's our example, right? So we've got the word transport. So before we begin, look at the word transport. Can you type in the chat box for me how many consonant clusters can you see in the word transport? Chris says 2. Great, I agree. And what are they? What are the consonant clusters? So someone says SP. So is SP, but not just SP? Right, okay, Lok Trong says there's 3. Right, so we've got 1 at the beginning here. We've got the T and the R, so the tr, that is a consonant cluster. We've got the NSP, the spelling, or nsp. Okay, and these are the 2 consonant clusters that we've got, okay? This one here, okay, someone said, so the RT, okay, this one actually, well, certainly in British English, this is not a consonant cluster. This is actually a vowel sound or plus the t sound, okay? So we do not pronounce the R, okay? So that one there, I'm gonna say is not a consonant cluster, certainly not in British English. So we've got 2 here. But I think it's important to raise our students' awareness that obviously the spelling in English and the pronunciation is not always linked. And just because we see 2 consonants, it doesn't mean that that is a consonant cluster. Right. Okay, it's a good point. Okay, transport, right. Transport. So we only say SP, transport. Well, I'm not sure, Thuy. So you're saying that we say transport? I certainly when I say it, I definitely pronounce the n, so it's transport. I think transport, if we remove that n sound, okay, probably it's to me sounds a little bit strange. Okay, right. So let's get in and have a look at this, right? So what we're doing here is we're going to start with the end of the word, right? So we're going to start with the end of the word, which is port, right? And we're going to get, you can join along with me here if you like. Okay, I want you to repeat this after me. So we get our students, first of all, just to say the word port. And the word port, okay, there are no consonant clusters in here, okay? There's just consonant, vowel, consonant. So it should be easy to say, right? So say after me, we say port. Okay, next we're going to add 1 of the consonants in. So we've got this S and then port, right? So you can repeat after me. We're going to say sport. Okay, so we can say it slowly, sport. Say it slowly again, sport. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to try and put these together, right? So 1 more time separately, and then we'll put it together. We've got sport, sport. Okay, let's try again. Sport, sport. Okay, so we can practice by saying the sounds individually and gradually putting them together. Okay, then we're going to do the last stage. We'll try and say this together. We can say the word transport. Okay, transport. And we can do the same thing. We can break it into 2 halves. We can say transport, 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 transport. So we can move them closer together and hopefully we can get our students to say the whole word. Okay, if we find this too difficult, okay, if our students still find it too difficult, we can break it into smaller parts, which is called back chaining. So we can start with the end of the word and we can get our students to repeat. So we start with ought, ought, port, port, sport, sport, antsport, antsport, transport, transport. Okay, and students often when we start at the back, because they're not focusing on the whole word, okay, they often find this easier to do. Okay, so this back chaining is a useful technique we can use. Okay, now some words, okay, we might actually want to start at the front. Okay, we might want to do what we could call front chaining. So let's have a listen, okay, or have a look at the second word here we're going to study, which is the word text. Okay, so I would like you to tell me, okay, in the word text, can you tell me how many consonant clusters have we got in the word text? Great, so there's one. Okay, and what is the consonant cluster? Okay, right, so it's XT. And so you got XT, right? I'm going to write this here. Sorry, it's not great, my handwriting. How many consonant sounds are in that cluster? Okay, Lynn has written it down for us. Okay, so we can say, okay, so this is kind of the other way around. So although we've only got 2 vowels here, we've actually got 3 vowel sounds. Okay, so here we've got a 3 sound consonant cluster. Okay, so let's listen and learn how we can try and pronounce this.
Tech, text, text.
Okay, and it breaks the word down for us nicely like that. So I think something useful that we can do, something that I find with my students helps a lot, is if we actually write it down. Let me draw this here. If we actually write this down kind of phonetically for them, so we can write down tech, we can write down text, and we can write down text. Okay, and if we write it down like this sometimes makes it much easier for students to pronounce, right? So we can start with tech, text, text. Okay, so in this case we are front chaining, starting at the front. Okay, so I know that the final consonants, okay, are often difficult for Vietnamese speakers, so we want to focus on them. Okay, and what we can do, we can use the similar technique that I looked at earlier. Okay, we can do it if they're having problems with this. We can break the sounds apart and then gradually put them together. So we can start with tech, text, text, text. Okay, and we can put them together, right? Once we've got text, we can add the T, so we can say text, 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 text. Okay, and we can put that all together. I found when I get my students using their hands, okay, sometimes this helps them to visualize, okay, what they're trying to do. Okay, because when they're just looking at the word or saying it, sometimes obviously when the thing about receptive pronunciation is when I say the word and when they say it, they often can't hear the difference between what they're saying and what I'm saying, or how the word should be. So using our hands to show the different sounds, okay, it helps reminds them that this is the number of sounds they should be aiming for. Okay, so the next activity here is actually a speaking activity. I'm just going to get rid of this. And the speaking activity it's an infographic, and they're going to be talking about a day in the life of the smartphone. They're going to be looking at which one of these things they agree with, okay, and which one of these they do. And we've got another example here, the word smartphone. Okay, this is another word that has a nice consonant cluster in it. Okay, so we've got the t and the f sounds. We've got tf, okay, this sound tf, okay, which is together there. So I'm going to have a look, and we're going to have a look at maybe see if we can back chain this. So let me just swap over to, I've got a lot of windows open. Here we go. So we're going to go over to my OneNote, right? So here's an example. So I showed you back chaining earlier. So I just want to write down and show you an example of it. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with one syllable, and then we're going to build up from there. And again, I find this visualization in pronunciation really helps students. So again, we'll do repeat after me. So we'll start with own, phone, phone. Do that one again. Phone, phone, art phone, mart phone, smartphone. Okay, and we can repeat this as many times as necessary. Similar thing to I was showing you earlier with my hands, we can do it visually, okay, on a whiteboard like this. So we can start off with a big gap between the two sounds we're trying to merge together, two consonants. So we can start off with smart, 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 okay? And we can visualize this with the larger gap, okay? Or we could do it with two parts of the word, smart, phone, smart, phone, smartphone. We can put these sounds together. Okay, right, let's go back, okay, into the CPT, classroom presentation tool, okay, and we're going to have a look at, or actually, I don't want to go there. I want to show you something else first. I want to show you up here. So I want to show you this, which is for some extra practice for the students, right? So what I'm showing you at the moment, okay, is the online practice. So online practice is basically a digital homework tool where teachers can set their students' homework and then they can do their homework online. Teachers can automatically check the grades, etc. You can see when we go into Unit 7, we've got all the activities broken down by skill. So if I go into pronunciation, and then we can have a look at the activity here, activity 1. And we're looking at here consonant clusters. So maybe you can help me do this. Okay, so we're going to listen and then we're going to type in the consonants that you hear. So this is practicing our receptive pronunciation.
Drink,
Let's play that again.
drink,
Play it one more time.
drink,
Okay, great. And someone has typed it in for me. So I'm going to type that in there. We'll put in drink. Okay, let's try the next one.
spend, spend, spend.
That's awesome. SP. And this is great because obviously students can spend as much time as they want. Okay, they've got, there's no rush here, and they can really take time listening carefully and trying to catch what they are. And it's not an easy activity, right? Especially at A1 level. Let's try one more.
Black, black, black.
Okay, right. And there we go. BL. So blah. Okay, black. Let's check our answers. Okay, and we can see that we got those 3 correct, right? And we can check all of the answers here, friends and smartphones. So we can see the recycling of the language there. So I think this is a nice activity for students, self-study activity. Okay, let's go back into the CPTs. We're going to change now. Okay, we're going to change to another lesson and another pronunciation point. So I'll zoom in so you can see this. So this is the second one we're going to look at. Clear voice of the pronunciation activities. And here we've got saying s and z. And let's just read the box. It says, when you say s, there is no voice from your throat and air comes out of your mouth. And we got the example word. Then it says, when you say z, there is voice from your throat, but no air comes out of your mouth. So we've got this nice description, which is going to help our students to understand what's the difference between these two sounds. So this pronunciation point is basically differentiating between two similar consonant sounds. Okay, now if we have a quick look here at the next activity, can you tell me which position are most of these S sounds or S or Z sounds in? Which position are most of these in? So we've got front, mid, and end position or final position. So we can see here that a lot of these, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, a lot of these, are focusing on the final position, the end position, right? And okay, we're going to talk about some rules for that later on, but this is what we're doing. And the reason that we're doing this right now, okay, here in the program is that the grammar point here is about possession. So can anyone think about the link? What's the link between the grammar point position and the pronunciation point of s and z? Can anyone think of what the link is between these two? Like why are they being taught together, do you think? Okay, Tui's already done all the answers there. That's very good. Okay, we're going to do those later. First, I just want you to think about why these are being taught together. Because another thing I found with pronunciation, you often find pronunciation is kind of a bit bitty, like you just find a pronunciation activity that almost seems to be just added in because they know they need to add some pronunciation, but it's often not linked very well with the rest of the lesson. Yeah, Twee says, so we have to say these sounds in possessives, right? So when we're using the possessive S, we need this pronunciation, right? We need to use the S and the Z sounds, right? Okay, and it's also important, okay, because there's a difference between them, yeah? Okay, that's great. So let's talk a little bit, okay, first about the what it says here about voice and air coming out of your mouth. So these are really useful, right? Really useful tools, okay, for our students. So the first one says, when we say S, there is no voice from the throat. So we can measure this by asking our students, and you can do this for me as well. You can gently put your fingers onto your throat, go into your voice box here. And then if you say the sound S, 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 okay, you don't feel anything in your throat, right? S, S. Okay, now if we go to the Z sound, okay, Z, and we do the same thing, Z, 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 it says there is voice, and what that means is we're getting this vibration in our throat, right? So this is voiced sound. So this is what I like to do with my students to get them to, again, when students can't hear the difference, okay, if they can't hear the difference, it's very difficult for them. So this is another way, not visualizing, but this is actually, they can feel it. They can feel the difference in the sounds, right? And the other thing it mentions is air. So if we have one hand here, if we take our other hand and put it in front of our mouth, okay, and then when we say S, 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 okay, we need to put it quite close to our mouth. S, S, you can feel some wind, okay, come out of your mouth onto your hand. And if we then say the Z sound, okay, so Z, 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 I can't feel as much. I can feel a tiny bit, okay, a tiny bit of air coming out, but not nearly as much as with the S sound, okay, where I'm pushing the air through my teeth. So we can actually help. Yeah, that's great. We usually use snake and bees, okay, to help them pronounce these words. That's a great trick, actually, yeah, as well. So yeah, getting them to feel, okay, something they can touch, right? Okay, something kinesthetic, tactile, they can actually feel the difference, and that's really going to help them to understand the difference. Yeah. Okay, so let's have a go, okay, at this activity. Oh, before we do that, I wanted to show you something else. So let's listen first of all. Okay, here we go. Let's listen to the clear voice box. Press play would be helpful.
S. Parents. Z. Yours.
S. Parents. Z. Yours.
Excellent. So these were our models. Okay, so what did you notice about the models there? What might be slightly different there compared to perhaps the way that you're used to having the language introduced? What did you notice? First of all, how many times was the language introduced? Sure, maybe you need to hear that again. Okay, Christine Wester. Okay, Christine Wester's got it. So we heard the language introduced twice. Okay, the first time we heard a British speaker, and the second time we heard a non-native or second language learner. Okay, and to me, I don't know what the accent. I think it was a French accent. So what we've done here in voices is that all of these, every time there's a model, there's always two. There's the native speaker and the non-native speaker with a very broad range of accents, which is reinforcing to our students that there's not a right and a wrong way to pronounce this, okay? And as long as it's comprehensible, okay, to other people, then we're doing it okay. And we want to try and give ownership of the language to, you know, people from all over the world, right? So we've made a lot of effort here to make sure that there's always this second model for our students. Okay, now let's have a go at the activity here and just see if we can try a few of these. Okay, so here we are again in the classroom presentation tool. So let's try the first one. So we've got the first word. Let's listen, and then you're going to tell me, is it the S or the Z sound? And you can practice using your hands.
1. Theirs.
Okay, so I'm going to pause there. Okay, I'm going to do it. Theirs, 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 theirs. Okay, so what do we think? Is that the S sound or the Z sound? Okay, are you doing it? Okay, can you feel any air coming out of your mouth? Okay, at the end of the word. Okay, so we're going to go for Z. Okay, that's right. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so that one. Okay, everyone seems to agree. Let's try the next one.
2. Yours.
Yours, 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 yours. Okay, so I think I can feel some vibration in my throat. So I'm going to click. Most of you are putting Z. Okay, let's try one more.
3. Aunts.
Let's try that one as well. Okay, aunts, 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 aunts. Okay, now when I'm doing that, I can definitely feel some very strong air coming out of my mouth. Okay, and I'm not feeling any vibration there. So I'm going to put that one as a S sound. Okay, and we can go through and we can check. Okay, we can check our answers there. We got all of those correct. And here are the other ones in case you're interested. Yeah, so I think this is, yeah, nice activity. Again, receptive pronunciation, okay, getting them to listen to differentiate between these two sounds. Okay, right. So that was a nice receptive pronunciation activity, but we could easily extend this, okay? We could easily extend this by perhaps making our own activity or using the internet as a resource. So what I've done here is I've gone onto the internet and I've typed in something like minimal pairs S and Z final, right? And I've come up with this website, English Club, and it's given me a long list of words which I can use as an activity, perhaps in a game, right? What was good about this website is it actually gave me these minimal pairs by level. So there were elementary, pre-intermediate, intermediate, upper intermediate, and I've chosen here the pre-intermediate list. Okay, now, before we start, okay, let's talk a little bit about what a minimal pair is. So I don't know if anyone can type into the chat box and summarize what a minimal pair is. While I'm waiting, I will start discussing it. So a minimal pair is when you have two words which are very, very similar, right? But there's just one difference, okay? There's just one difference in the pronunciation of the word. And that difference is just, yeah, one sound, okay? One phoneme is different. So if we look at the two words here, we've got the adjective, okay, it's close. And here we've got close, the verb to close, right? So close and close. So there are 4 sounds in each of these words. And the only one that's different is the one represented by the S, but one of them is S and one of them is Z, okay? That's a minimal pair, exactly the same the pronunciation apart from one sound. I've got a question here. We were taught in person is devoiced. Well, remember, Tuipam is not voiced, okay? Is not voiced at all. So person, okay, person. Yeah, I'm not sure. For me, I wouldn't say person, but listen, people have different accents from all around the world. I'm sure there are people that say person, right? I'm sure there are. For me, as a British English speaker, we wouldn't do that in Britain. It would definitely be the S sound, okay, person. But I'm sure people do say that. Okay, so let's get back to the activity here. So what I like to do in an activity like this, I like to put students into groups, okay, and give them the list, okay, and then what I like to get them to do is get two little bits of paper like this. They can make them themselves with a 1 and a 2. So 1 obviously representing the s sounds, and 2 representing the z sounds, right? Now what they do is they take it in turns, and one of the students will take their pieces of paper in secret, okay, and they choose one of them and they hide the other one down on the table. Don't let them keep both in their hands, because otherwise they can cheat. Okay, so I've got one in my hand, you can't see it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a word, okay, maybe I'll pick from here, and I'm going to say it, and I want you to tell me, type into the chat box 1 or 2, right? So the word is peace, peace, peace. Okay, and you get the students to say it 3 times, right? Peace. Okay, now everyone is putting in here number 1. And now this is why we got the paper. I can turn it around and I can prove to you that I was saying number 1. I was saying peace, because I did this when I first used to do this activity. I didn't get the bits of paper. I just relied on honesty, and everyone always got it right. So it's much better to have the bits of paper, okay? Because then they can't, you know, because people get embarrassed, right? If they're trying to say peace, but they're saying peas, they'll be embarrassed that they can't do it. So we do it with the paper. It's fun. It's a game. Everyone in the group who guesses it correctly gets 1 point, okay? And the person who is pronouncing it, doing the production, they get 1 point for everyone who guesses correctly, okay? So you can do it as a competition and see who gets the most points, right? So they take it in turns. And I find my students really enjoy that. Nice comment here. I sometimes ask them to place a piece of paper. Yeah, so you can, I've got my microphone in the way, right? So if we're looking at whether there's air coming out, so you should be able to see that when I'm saying the paper is moving more. So that's another thing we can do instead of using our hand, right? Okay, great. So this is a nice little game. It's easy to find resources on the internet. Right, okay, let's go and have another look on the OLP. And I want to have a look at an activity which matches this. So let's go out of here. So remember, this is a different lesson. Okay, so this was a second pronunciation lesson. And I want to go in, again, this is for the homework, okay, for the homework resource that we have. And we're going to go into pronunciation number 2. And here we have an activity practicing the s and the z sounds, right? So again, we're going to listen.
Books, books, books.
Okay, and then what the students have to do at home on their own, they have to choose, okay, which one of these sounds goes at the end. So what do we think for this one?
Books.
Is this the s or the z sound? Number 1. Okay, right. So we can put that one. So we click it and we click here and it puts it in. How about the second one?
Rings, rings, rings.
Okay, so I can see most people are putting z, so we can put that in there. Let's try another one.
His, his, his.
Okay, there we go. Now you might notice that it's a little bit exaggerated, right? So here, okay, that one to me
his
is a little bit exaggerated. I would say his, but yeah, there's, you remember this is for A1 level students and we're trying to teach them to be able to differentiate between these two sounds. So another really nice receptive pronunciation activity. Okay, let's go and have a look at one more activity or one more lesson, which is in Unit 8. And this will just take a couple of minutes, all right? So I mentioned this earlier on as a grammar point, which is often over-taught. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page there. Over-taught and often taught quite badly, right? So, and that one, as you remember from earlier on, is about connected speech, right? And I want to show this as an example because just myself as a teacher, I think I used to do this really badly. So with connected speech here, what we want to teach our students is something that's very high frequency, something they're going to hear all the time, something they need to understand. So the grammar point here, I can show you, is about past tense, right? They're learning past simple tense. They're learning about questions. And you know that it's very, very, very common, okay, when people are talking, when they're making past tense questions, to connect did and you, okay? So let's hear what it sounds like.
Did you watch a lot of television?
Did you watch a lot of television?
Great. So again, we've got our two models. Okay, we've got a native speaker and a non-native speaker. And we're focusing here on did you. Okay, so we've got the sound did you. And Miles just typed in there a lot of, right? And yeah, this is exactly my point, Miles. That so if you notice in the recording, I'll play it one more time.
Did you watch a lot of television?
So here in the model, they're not really connecting a lot of. They're only connecting this first bit, the did you, okay? And actually the second bit, they're not, you know, it's quite fast, but it's not connected. It's not a lot of, right? And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that you don't want to do what I used to do. So when I used to teach, I used to take this to the extreme, and I would get my students, I would say for my students something like, did you watch a lot of telly? Did you watch a lot of telly? Did you watch a lot of telly? And I'd get them to repeat that, right? And it used to be a lot of fun, like the students enjoyed it, and they'd be like, you know, do you really say that? You know, I'd say, well, I do with my friends maybe, you know, and we used to do it. It was enjoyable, but it wasn't very useful, because if they tried to do it, and especially if they're talking to another non-native speaker, they just wouldn't understand what they were saying. So it's actually putting a barrier there between communication. So what we want to focus on is really these really high frequency things, which if we don't understand, we're not going to understand people, right? Okay, so I think that's a nice example, yeah? Okay, we've got, let me show you very quickly here. We'll go in and we've got one more activity from the OLP, and this actually will illustrate quite nicely my point about why students need to understand that. So because the did you, it's giving us a verb tense, right? So if they don't catch it, people won't understand the time frame. Are you talking about now, the future? We don't know. So we're going to listen here, and we're going to hear, can you hear did you? Okay, so let's listen to the first one.
What do you do after school?
Okay, did you hear did you there? Let's listen again.
What do you do after school?
No, okay, so we don't tick that one. Next one.
Did you always want to be an artist?
Okay, did we hear did you? Yes, so we can tick that one. Next one.
Do you know each other from school?
How about that one? No, okay, so we don't tick it. Next one. Let's listen to that one again.
Do you know each other from school?
Okay, so we don't hear it. Is there do you, right?
Where did you grow up?
Okay, now a bit more difficult, that one. Let's listen again.
Where did you grow up?
Where did you grow up? So that one we're going to tick. Remember, so these activities, I always found it quite, not surprising. Well, certainly when I first started teaching, yeah, sometimes I was surprised because something that was to me was so obviously different. So many of my students really struggled with. So having an activity like this, again, that they can practice on their own, gives them an opportunity to really try and zone in, listen carefully, okay, listen as many times as they want until they get it right. And we can check the answers here. You can see it's giving me a score. Remember, this is their teacher would be assigning this and then checking the homework to see how they got on. Okay, right, now I've just got a couple of activities I want to share with you before I wrap up. So I want to go back into my PowerPoint. Okay, just give me a second. Sorry, I got to do a new screen share. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So a couple of worksheets, which I'm going to send to you so that you'll be able to use these. So something I really like about Voices is that it has lots and lots of photocopyable worksheets or extra activities that you can use. You can use them online as well. They're easy to adapt like that. for grammar, for vocabulary, communication, for mediation, and also for pronunciation. So this is a game, okay, which we can play similar to bingo, which practices receptive pronunciation, in this case, consonant clusters. So the way this works is that if we're in the classroom, we split the students into 4 groups, and we give each group, we cut this up, we give each group one of these shopping lists, Prue's shopping list, Drake's shopping list, etc. And you'll notice that the names correspond to these consonant clusters that they've been practicing in another lesson. So each group has one. Then the teacher, or even better, a student, you can get them in groups to do this, right? So one student, to practice their productive pronunciation, is going to read out, okay, an item. And they can only write them down if the item contains the sound that's in the name. So for Prue, it's the PR, the pr sound, right? So let's have a go, right? So I'm going to read out an item, and I want you to tell me who can write it down, whose shopping list should it go on, right? So the first one, the first word we're going to have, first item is Christmas tree. Okay, Christmas tree. So whose shopping list should Christmas tree go on? Let's see who can get the point here. Russell says Tracy's. Okay, let's have a look. Why is it Tracy? Because the word tree has the tr, okay, the consonant cluster tr. Yeah, so that's same as Tracy. Let's try the next one. Okay, so the next one is I can't remember. Oh, you didn't see that, right? The next one is drawing paper. Okay, drawing paper, drawing paper. So who can tell me? Okay, that is going to be for Drake. That's right. Okay, excellent. Okay, the next one I think is going to be okay, next one is frozen pizza. Okay, frozen pizza. It's going to be Frank. Okay, let's try another one. Photo frame. Photo frame. Okay, it's going to be for Frank. Okay, and the last one is hairspray. Hairspray. Okay, and that is for Prue. Right, great. So I think this is a fun game, right? So it's a little bit like bingo. They're sort of collecting things. At the end, you count up to see the winner. You count out how many correct words they have, 1 point for each correct word, and then they lose a point for any incorrect word that they've got written down, right? So really nice, again, to practice this receptive pronunciation. Yeah, sorry, I for some reason, my annotations weren't showing up in my slides, so I didn't know which word was coming next. One more game for me to share with you, okay? So this one is like a pronunciation maze or a pathway, practicing the endings that we looked at earlier, s and z, and one more is, okay, which is often very common, okay, for words ending in s. And what they have to do, they have to make a pathway across here. So I'm going to make it a bit bigger, and I can illustrate what we're going to do. So we're going to start with books. Okay, so books here. What's the sound on the end? Is that a s, a z, or an is? Okay, books, voiced or unvoiced? Let me get my pen out. That will make it easier for me. Yeah, so it's unvoiced, right? So this books, okay, it's the s sound, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to move across here, but we can only move across by joining to another word which has the same sound at the end. So if we can move horizontally, diagonally, or vertically. So can we go to coins? Coins, coins. Okay, we can't go, that's a z sound, right? So we can't go there. So can we go to mats? Is that the same sound? Yes. Okay, so we're going to go from books, we draw a line down to mats. Okay, next. So now we're looking for another word with s as the final sound, right? So we've got phones, we've got ropes, we've got noses. Right, so we're going to go to ropes, that is the s sound, right? Next, we've got keys, we've got boxes, and we've got wallets. Keys, 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 keys. Okay, boxes, that's is. Okay, so we're going to go down to wallets. Okay, from wallets, where are we going to go next? We've got phones, devices, and mats. phones, devices, and mats. So let's go down to mats. Okay, next we've got addresses, houses, or books. So we're going to go up to books. Okay, and then we're going to go from books. We've got presents, words, devices. So we can go to presents, and that is the end. So we've managed it. Okay, for that first one, we've done the route here, right? So we can see that actually there are, there's a whole lot of them here, right? So there's like 8 different ones. So you can put them in pairs, put them in groups. Again, you can do it as a competition if you like. You can see which group can do it first or whatever. It's a nice game that you can play. So I'm just going to come out here and I'm going to put into the chat box for you. So I've got these activities and I'm going to drop them in the chat box now. So the actual worksheet itself, and I've also dropped in the teacher's notes as well. So both of the activities that we looked at, I've just dropped into the chat box. So if you're on your computer, I just dropped 4 files in there so you can open them, you can download them, and you can go and use these in your classroom. Okay, so I hope you enjoy using those. All right, so I'm going to wrap up. So I just want to remind you that all of the content we've been looking at today, all the materials are from our new program called Voices. And this is an integrated skills program. And one of its great strengths, as we saw today, is a really strong focus on productive and receptive pronunciation. And this is based on a research-based syllabus. So if you're interested in pronunciation, or if you're also interested in mediation, communication, personalization, learning about yourself, learning about National Geographic Explorers. So this is a title that is well worth checking out, okay? If you would like us to get in touch with you, if you would like us to contact you with more information about Voices or about maybe another question you might have, I've just started another poll you should be able to see on your screen. So if you type yes, okay, we can contact you. If you type no, that's fine. Okay, we won't get in contact with you. But if you're interested in finding out a bit more, you can, just press yes now. And I'm going to leave that, okay, up on the screen for a while I talk about a few more things. Tomorrow, we're going to send you a follow-up email tomorrow afternoon. And this will contain links to the video recording. We'll have the certificate. I'll also include those worksheets that I sent in case you on your phone, you couldn't get it. So sometime tomorrow, you'll get this follow-up email. We've got some more webinars coming up, okay, which I hope that you would like to join us for. So the first one we've got coming up on May 25th is with Gary Pathare, and he's another author, one of the authors for Voices, and he is also a real expert in examinations. He's worked with Cambridge exams, with IELTS, actually is question writer, lots of other things. So I would like right now, Trang, can you drop the registration into the chat box for me? There we go. So if you would like to join us for Gary's session about basically IELTS and VSTEP and how to help prepare your students using different materials, please click on the link you can see now. Trang, you only sent it to me. Trang, can you send it again to everyone? Because nobody can see it. So Trang's going to send it to everyone. Maybe I can do it. Here we go, copy. Okay, paste. There we go, I put it in as well. There we go. So this is the May 25th assessment webinar. So if you're teaching exams, if you've got students taking exams, make sure you don't miss this. Gary is, as I say, he's a real expert in the field, so you don't want to miss that. Second webinar we've got coming up on June the 9th. This session is with Rachel Gibbon, who is a publisher of Voices. So she was in charge of making all the materials that you saw today. And in this session, Rachel's going to be looking at what students need to be successful communicators in English and how best to teach them. So she's going to be discussing, amongst other things, growth mindset thinking, being future ready, okay, and how to interact with people from different cultures and backgrounds. And I think here, Trang has just put the link, okay, into the chat box for you there. Okay, so please sign up for our June 9th webinar as well, and we hope to see you at that one. Trang's also put in here the Voices Vietnam microsite, so you can find more information. This is a site just for people in Vietnam. Nguyen, the certificate I will send to you. We will send an email to you tomorrow, okay, for the certificate. You'll get an email tomorrow. And if you don't get the email, send me an email, okay, and I'll find that for you. Okay, finally, we've got the Facebook Vietnam page. So if you'd like to find out more about our about what we have on, okay, our events, okay, please click on Facebook there. You can follow us, become a fan, and find out all about our upcoming events. Okay, so I'm just gonna stop, okay, just for a moment. Okay, and yeah, that brings me to the end. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you enjoyed some of the activities that we shared. I hope you've got some ideas for your classroom that you can use, and I hope you have a clearer idea of what it means to talk about pronunciation, right? It's not just teaching students sounds and teaching them how to say words. Okay, there's so much more than that. And a lot of it, as I said, undertaught is about teaching people how to understand other people, that receptive pronunciation, which I think our students need so much more of. Okay, so great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And as I said, okay, please make sure you sign up for our next webinar. There's the link once again. Okay, sign up for our May 25th. It's going to be great, right? This is going to be awesome with Gary. He's a real expert, okay? He's going to be showing you really fun, engaging, interesting activities that also help your students learn for exams. So how do you make exam prep more interesting? How do you make it more interactive? He's going to share some of his tips on how to do that. Great, and I'm glad you understand the difference between productive and receptive pronunciation. Okay, right, that's all from me. So I'm going to stop talking, okay, and I'm going to wish you good day, and I hope to see you again soon. Okay, all right, goodbye.